Aphyosemion Striatum Lambarene. That's one of the locations for this fish. Extremely pretty killifish that, as you can see, does not spend its day hiding. Very easy to keep. There's your female. Pretty much with killifish, the females are pretty drab. The males are the pretty one. Other than they tend to want live or frozen food. There's your male. Live or frozen food. The only other really sticky requirements for them is you've got to have a cover on the tank. You got to remember that killifish come from shallow water. And if you're in very shallow water, the first thing you think of when something happens is jump. You can't run. There's no place to run. You have to jump. Now, that said, of course they're going to love frozen food. That can be anything from brine shrimp that you've hatched, adult brine shrimp, bloodworms, live food wise, earthworms, easy to do. You can get fancy hatching brine shrimp, but it's not really that big a stickler. These guys are from Africa, over where the little fat part hooks to the small part, Cameroon, Gabon area. They're normally in soft water. One of the nicer things about them is that they are not requiring high temperatures. So room temperature for me, 68 to 74, somewhere in there, they're totally happy. You can keep them in a larger tank. The ones you're looking at right now are in a 2.5 gallon tank. Killifish people like to have a lot of killifish, and as a result we tend to put them in small tanks. That means we have to spend more work doing water changes and paying attention, but that's the price to have more of the fish. Now, for breeding purposes, you could use Java moss, plants, or in this case I've made a mop out of yarn. Use the wine cork to hang it. Put a little Anubias plant in there for them, sponge filter. A lot of people like bare bottom tanks. I don't like the slime they develop, and I much prefer the gravel on the bottom. It makes it look more realistic. If you can look realistic with a yarn mop dangling in there. It's also a good place for the eggs to end up falling when they spawn. They'll lay the eggs either around the edges of the mop. Where'd it go? Around the edges of the mop, or they'll actually go in the mop. Small eggs to hatch. You can just leave them in there. If there's enough plants, some of the babies will survive. A lot of people will pick the eggs and put them in another container of water. Change the water every couple of days. Maybe put a drop of some kind of antifungal in there. Slowly dilute it out. Eggs will take 10 days to 2 weeks to hatch at normal type house temperatures. You can also store the eggs on peat moss or some wet core, or that's ground up coconut that's just barely moist. Store that, put the eggs on that in a plastic bag, give it a week to 2 weeks, take them out, put the peat in water, and the eggs should be hatching for you. That gives you all the fry are the same size, which is always nice. Easier to feed when they're all the same size. They really don't cause a problem being different sizes until the first guy that hatches is big enough to eat the last guy that hatched. In which case you'll discover no matter how many eggs you put in, you only get a half a dozen fry because they're eating all the later ones. These are an easy fish to keep. Don't have a lot of requirements, and in many ways they'll rival some of your saltwater fish without all the expense of the saltwater. So I would highly recommend, if you find them, that this is a great beginning killifish. And if you've been keeping killifish for many, many years and you haven't had these for a while, take a look at this. It's time you had them again. Thank you for watching.